What if the moment you felt like giving up was the moment your life was about to change? Because this is the story of a boy who failed twice, had almost nothing, and almost believed the world was right about him. Almost. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Soft, relentless, cold. It tapped against the rusted roof like a quiet reminder that life had never been easy for Daniel. Before sunrise each morning, while the village still slept, Daniel tied the worn laces of his only pair of shoes. The soles were thin, the edges were torn. Each step felt the stones beneath. But he walked anyway. At home, his mother would press a small piece of bread into his hand. "Eat slowly," she would whisper, as if eating slowly could make it last longer, as if love could fill an empty stomach. At school, other boys arrived with polished shoes, bright backpacks, and lunchboxes heavy with food. Daniel kept his head down. He laughed when they laughed. He smiled when they smiled. But hunger is hard to hide, and so is doubt. One afternoon, the teacher began returning exam papers. The room was silent. "Daniel," her voice was careful, almost gentle. "You failed. Again." The word "again" echoed louder than the word "failed." A few students giggled. Someone whispered, "He will never make it." Daniel stared at the paper. The red marks felt heavier than ink. It was the second time he had failed the same exam. On the walk home, the sky was dark and the road muddy. Each step felt slower than the last. When he reached their small wooden house, he stopped outside the door. Inside, his mother was sewing under the dim light of a kerosene lamp. Her hands moved quickly, but her eyes were tired. "How was school?" she asked. Silence. "I failed again." The words barely escaped his mouth. The room went still. Then his mother put down the shirt. She walked to him. She placed her hands gently on his shoulders. "My son," she said softly, "failing an exam does not mean you have failed in life. It only means you must try again, this time with more heart." That night, Daniel made a decision. Not a loud decision, not a dramatic one, a quiet one. He would not let his circumstances decide his future. He began waking earlier than ever before. Before the sun rose, he sat outside with his books, using the faint morning light to study. In the evenings, he helped his mother at the market, carrying baskets, sweeping stalls, earning a few coins. Some nights, hunger blurred the words on the page. Some mornings, exhaustion made his body ache. There were moments he wanted to quit, moments he almost believed the whispers were true. But every time doubt crept in, he heard his mother's voice. "Try again, with more heart." Months passed. The day of the results arrived. Students crowded around the notice board, pushing and shouting their scores. Daniel stood at the back, his hands trembling. He closed his eyes. Then he stepped forward. He searched for his name, and there it was. Beside it, in bold letters, was the word he had dreamed of seeing. Pass. Silence. Then disbelief. Then joy. The storm inside him broke into sunlight. Daniel ran all the way home, his shoes slapping against the dusty road. He burst through the door. "Mother, I passed!" She dropped the bowl in her hands. Tears filled her eyes as she pulled him into her arms. "I knew you would," she whispered. "Not because life is easy, but because your heart is strong." Years later, Daniel stood in front of a classroom, but this time he was not the student in worn shoes. He was the teacher at the front. Every morning he looked at the children in the back rows, the quiet ones, the ones with empty lunchboxes and tired eyes. He saw himself in them. And whenever one of them felt like giving up, he would smile and say, "Failing today does not mean you have failed in life. Try again with more heart." Closing message. Right now, someone watching this feels like they have failed. Maybe you, maybe someone you love. But failure is not the end of your story. It is a chapter, and chapters can change. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And tell me in the comments, what challenge are you facing right now? Because your story is not over. It is just waiting for you to try again with more heart.